As our economy struggles, many people are turning to credit cards to help fill the gap. Today, we're talking about credit card debt. Let's get into it.
A new study shows Gen Zers have some finance problems, starting out with more credit card debt than previous generations. And to make matters worse, credit reporting agency TransUnion found people in their early 20s are earning less compared to what their millennial counterparts made 10 years ago. Gen Zers are also experiencing higher delinquency rates than millennials did at their age. And the report points to higher borrowing rates driven by inflation.
Yeah, so as inflation goes up, we're going to see credit card debt go more and more and more. Over the past couple of years, we've seen credit card debt increase, and the average credit card debt, I just pulled it. The most recent data shows the average household is about $7,000 in credit card debt.
What's a bad financial decision that you regret making in life?
Opening up a credit card at 18 years old.
Yeah.
1,000%. I just paid the off, actually, like 2 days ago. I'm 23 years old.
Oh, for
So, yeah, that was the worst financial decision, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that was one of my worst financial decisions too. It's one of those things where it can get out of hand so quickly. And the thing about it is, if you're not paying off your credit cards every single month and you have a hardship of some kind come up, then the next thing you know, you could find yourself in some really crazy debt, and it can feel impossible to get out of. Especially whenever your interest rate's around 20% and you think that, hey, I can just make the minimum payment. I can pay $150 on this $10,000. No big deal. I'll just pay it off over the next 15 years. But the problem is, as soon as something else happens, you get more and more debt. This thing just starts to, it turns into a monster and it gets out of hand. And next thing you know, you can't hide it anymore. There's nowhere to put it. And it's just wreaking havoc on the family.
My husband and I are $60,000 in debt.
So let's talk about my credit card debt so you feel better about your finances. I am currently, as of this morning, have $55,399 of credit card debt. And that is across 7 different credit cards. So
my husband and I are 29 years old, and we currently have $32,890 in credit card debt.
I'm 31, I'm single, I live alone, and I have $29,445 in credit card debt.
I have $40,000 in credit card debt. 40.
Yeah, guys, this is insane. So these are extreme examples. However, if the average is $7,000, it's the average for a reason. There are plenty of people who only have a few $100s in credit card debt, which means that there are also lots of people on that high end that have tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. And it feels really overwhelming to get into this situation. We're going to listen to some folks who are in that situation and just feel helpless. But we're also going to give you some helpful strategies to get out of it. Welcome to our channel. Our channel name is Make Gains, and I'm Adam Gaines. And together, I'd love for us to make gains financially and in our personal lives. So if this is your first time joining us, please like and subscribe. We're a brand new channel, so you have no idea on how much that helps us. So I would appreciate that. But let's get into it.
Okay, here's why going into credit card debt actually makes you rich. So if you listen to all the finance people, they're like, don't go into credit card debt, don't use your credit cards or whatever. But I did the total opposite. I've always been shit at budgeting. I've always just bought stuff even when I don't have the money, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's also kind of making me rich. And here's what I mean. I basically got into debt where I was like, if I play this the normal way and try to stop buying coffee at Starbucks or whatever, then I'm screwed. I'm going to be screwed for 30 years because I'm not going to get out of debt. If I get this job that pays this amount, you just do the math in your head. I'm like, I'm not getting out of debt. So I just thought about it differently, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to make way more money. I'm going to have to play by different rules. And that's when I started thinking about okay, how can I make way more money so that this debt doesn't even matter? So I was getting into business. I was, making money in different ways, freelancing in these things. And I was like, getting into debt kind of made me, or is kind of making me rich.
So that's one way to view it. I would say that this guy is an idiot because getting into debt in no way, shape, form, or fashion is going to make you rich. Now, if you're one of the lucky people who can say, hey, I'm in debt and I got to figure out some way to get out of it, so let's increase my income exponentially so that this small credit card debt doesn't mean anything anymore, yeah, more power to you. But most people can't do that. So do not ever try to think about oh, this is going to help me to improve my life because I'll just rack up so much debt that I'll have to make some kind of crazy money to get out of it, because that math isn't mathing, guys. just to be clear here. So if you've got friends that are telling you this, just chalk it up to they're idiots, and and try to find some sound financial advice, but that's not it.
I joined a Dave Ramsey like private Facebook group. People all the time reference rice and beans. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not willing to do anything to get out of debt. I'm not willing to eat rice and beans every day. I'm not willing to have 3 jobs and not spend time with my children. I'm not willing to forego my favorite salad on a Friday when I feel like getting one. My bills and my debt is so tremendous that $20 here, $100 there is not making an impact. The cost of living and low wages is to blame for the financial woes of most Americans. And being told that we can incrementally make these big differences if we just give up our quality of life for 5-10 years is absurd.
Yeah, I feel where she's coming from, because once you get into that much debt, I mean, I've been there, guys. I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I've had a lot of credit card debt in my past. So in my 20s, I racked up about $20,000 in credit card debt, and I had to work my way out of it, and it took a long time, and it wasn't fun. But that's the price you pay. You've got to pay the piper one way or another. I was listening to a podcast a few years ago, and they said that this was in reference to health, but they said that you can either have pain now and comfort later, or you can have comfort now and pain later. And so in that reference, they were saying it's better to work out now and you'll have an easier late adulthood, or you can not work out now and then you're going to really struggle later in life because things are going to be painful and you're going to be not able to move well and you'll probably die sooner, right? So this applies in finance as well. If you're unwilling to do the hard work to get yourself out of debt or not get in debt to begin with, then things are going to be hard for you later because you're going to have to go through struggles like not being able to retire. Okay. Whereas if you could pay off debt and then you can continue paying that money to yourself, you have an opportunity to set yourself up for a really strong financial future, but only if you're willing to do the hard work now. So if you give up and you say, hey, I'm not willing to do anything to get out of debt, I'm just going to say, screw it. Then, congratulations. That you're basically giving up, and you can't ride that train forever, guys. So eventually, you're going to either have to start budgeting, or you're going to have to, like that other fella, you're going to have to get rich somehow. And for most people, that's a difficult road as well.
Piece of advice: don't live out of your means. Don't use those credit cards. False advertisement. You ain't got it like that. You don't. And if you did, you wouldn't have to use swipe the card. Unless you're doing like rewards, but we ain't talking to those type of people.
You ain't got it like that. So she's not kidding. If you have to use a credit card, then you don't have it like that. You don't need to be spending like that. You got to be spending like you got cash, which means that if you don't have enough money to go and buy that Starbucks, to go and buy lunch, then you probably should be packing your lunch. You probably should be making your coffee at the house. Okay, it's hard to hear that, but it's the truth. And that is the way that you get yourself out of debt. So you have to understand that and then be willing to live below your means, like she said.
The first step to paying off credit card debt is to stop going deeper into debt. That's step one. That is a part of paying off debt. The reason is because you can put lump sums towards your debt. You can pay it off in one swoop and then right back up in debt 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, because you were still reliant on debt, because you didn't necessarily get your expenses under control, learn how to spend within your means, and stick to a budget for the long term.
Yeah, sticking to a budget for the long term is really difficult. I mean, me and my wife have been doing this for 15 years this year. And sticking to a budget, even now, after doing it for so long, can be really hard. And it has to be very intentional. And I would tell you, we are not good at it, but we're not horrible at it either. Like we're good enough to where we live below our means and we can save money and we can pay off any debts that we have. But our policy is to not go into debt. So what this person was talking about is cutting off the bleeding, right? If you decide that you want to pay off your credit cards, which is a really important piece to having financial success and making gains, then you've got to stop the bleeding, which means you've got to make it to where you're not increasing your debt. So if you're continuing to live the same lifestyle, then credit cards they're not working for you, and you've got to take some additional steps. Now, some of those additional steps might be cutting up all of your credit cards. It might be taking your credit cards and I've heard this one, put it in a big block of ice and throw it in your freezer. That way it's going to take you a while to be able to have access to it. You can't just run and grab it because there's a sale and you can't take it with you to the mall. So those are some things that you can do that are pretty easy, but you've got to develop a lifestyle to where you are not relying on debt to pay your bills and to do your day-to-day activities, right? So that might mean your day-to-day activities need to change. And that's not fun to hear that. I know, because I've had to do it. But if you're used to going out to eat every night and you're trying to get out of debt, well, guess what? You probably don't need to go out to eat every night. Now, if going out to eat is really important to you, cool, go out to eat. But understand that you've got to change something in your budget in order to make this work. You can't keep doing things you've always done and expect your results to change, because that's not going to happen.
I had $18,000 in credit card debt and I had no idea how to get out of it. So let me walk you through some mindset and behavioral shifts I made to get out of it in 10 months. First thing I had to realize is that my money was not my money anymore. Any money that came into my bank account was not mine to spend. It was all the bank's money and it was all my bills' money. While you are in debt, your money is not your money. Your money is someone else's money. And once that really sank into my core, I was not happy spending money on anything for any reason. And I needed my money to be my money again. I was going to work and working for someone else. I was handing my paycheck straight to the bank, and I wanted that money to be my money, to spend as I wanted to spend differently than I had been spending, but to spend as I wanted to spend. And so after that, now we realize one does not really get into that debt unless they're looking at their finances every day. And I was never opening my bank statement, opening my credit card accounts. I had autopay set up on the minimum, and that was all I cared about.
Yeah, she's right. You have to change your mindset. You have to remember that until this is paid off, this is not my money. The Bible says the borrower is slave to the lender. And so what that means is that you've taken on that yoke of being a borrower, and so you owe something to someone else. The money that you are making in isn't yours. It belongs to someone else, and they're going to get theirs. Trust. All right? They're going to charge you interest on that money. You're going to be paying them, so you've got to get out of that situation. I don't know about you guys, but I do not want to be a slave to anyone. So for me and my wife, we've chosen we are not going to have debt. So if that means that, hey, we can't buy a new car, then we can't buy a new car. If we don't have the money to pay for that with cash, then that's not for us, okay? Getting that new car is not for us. We've got to be happy with what we have. But if we decide we want something, then we've got to set a goal, we've got to save, and we've got to make that happen without getting into debt. So that's something I want to challenge you guys to do as you're moving through this journey of making gains. Start getting your money under control. First, stop the bleeding. Next, you've got to make sure that your money's under control through a budget. And then we're going to start paying off that debt. But first, you guys need to have an emergency fund. So if you don't have an emergency fund, get yourself 3 to 6 months savings. Okay, this is the first thing you need to do. So keep paying that minimum payment until you have your 3 to 6 months of emergency fund. And the reason you need that is because something can happen. You can lose your job. You can have something happen with your card where it's an emergency now. You've got to pay for that. And the last thing you want to be doing is unthawing that credit card that's in your freezer so that you can go and charge $4,000 to get a new transmission put in your used Toyota. Okay, that's not what you want. Instead, what you want to have is a situation where you've got the cash. When something happens, you can just dish it out because you've got it. And that will protect you from being forced to go back into debt, which You don't want to be in that situation.
So I'm about $4,300 in credit card debt, but after yesterday, I'm now $4,258.79 in credit card debt. This is day 23 of the series where I Spark Drive, DoorDash, or Instacart to pay off my credit card debt, but I'm only working to pay off one card right now. On that one, I owe $3,334.51. We're gonna probably go to like 12:30 to like 4:30 and see how much we can make. The goal is to make $100 a day or more. Let's get started. I have an order in my trunk right now and it's for $16. This one is for $14. This order in my trunk is for $15. This order in my car right now is for $20. My last order was for $12 and the one I'm on right now is for $30. So I guess I qualified for an incentive. The Spark gave me $24 extra, so I ended up making $158.91. That brings my total debt down to $4,099.88. And on that one card, that puts me at $3,175.60. See y'all on day 24.
So I love this. So we talked about cutting off the bleeding. We talked about setting a budget. We talked about having an emergency fund. But guys, that can only get you so far. I mean, you can only budget so much to be able to save money. The next thing that you need to be able to do is to increase your income. And that it's hard. And a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work for that. I understand you might be in a season of life where you just feel like that's impossible. But I bet that if you really buckle down, you could really figure it out. Whether that's selling old stuff, right? If you think about minimalism, that's gonna be something that we talk about a little bit. But if you wanna be minimalistic, I bet you got tons of stuff sitting around your house that you don't use that you could sell to earn some extra money to help pay down your credit cards. It's probably all the crap that you bought with those credit cards that got you into it in the first place. But what she's doing is, what is it, DoorDash or whatever it is, but she's going and getting groceries for folks, delivering it to their house, making 20, 30, 15 bucks a pop. And I think this is fantastic because she's doing this with a purpose. She's not doing this forever, but she's doing this with the intent on getting out of debt and getting out of the situation she put herself in. And she's putting herself into a situation where she can really have money for the future.
I'm 30 years old. I have no money in savings and $25,000 in credit card debt. So I listed out my 2 paychecks and then all of my fixed expenses, the things that I absolutely know are coming out of my account every single month. And I'm actually very surprised by how much money I have left over at the end of each month. I've received both my paychecks and all of my fixed expenses have come out of that. I actually have like $2,000 left a month. Crazy to like wrap my mind around how those $2,000 were going to things like meals and entertainment and shopping and makeup and all of these things, non-essential things, when this whole time they could have been going to paying off my debt.
Yeah, so whenever you start going through your budget, what you want to look at is what is essential and what is not. So whenever I say what is essential, well, your power bill, your water bill, your mortgage, your gas for your car, okay? All those things are essential, but the things that aren't essential are going out to eat, all the junk you buy on Amazon, okay? So start thinking about that. Start paying attention to those brown boxes showing up at your door. And those are the things that you need to eliminate. So a lot of people say, I have no extra money. You just don't understand. Well, that might be true, okay? I mean, times are tough, legit. But I do think that most people can budget enough to be able to start paying down credit cards instead of continuing that debt cycle. So I thought this was a good one just because she realized she had $2,000 a month that was extra. And then once you realize that, you can start allocating that to the things that are important to you, okay? And so you start saving for things like going on vacation, okay? Like presents, things like that, so that they're not surprises for you down the road. You write them down, you start allocating money for those, and then that way, whenever it comes time to buy a gift for someone, you've already budgeted for that. When it comes time to go on vacation or go to a concert, well, you don't have to feel guilty because you're not using a credit card to do it. You're using money that you put in your savings account with the purpose of doing that, whatever it is, right? So really suggest you start doing that if you're not already, and that will help you with moving forward towards getting out of debt.
I want you to create a budget, a monthly budget. I want you to plan out exactly what you're going to spend in every category of your budget. And this is everything from food to electricity. And you are you're going to take your lifestyle all the way down to just needs. So this is food, shelter, utilities, transportation, and that's it.
Survival.
Anything else, and it's going to go towards the smallest debt, and you're going to pay it off. And then you're going to go and get two extra jobs. You're going to work extra jobs on the weekends. You're going to work extra jobs at night, and you're going to be so focused and so intense at attacking this debt. And the great thing is, if you focus your money and you cut your lifestyle and you have this intense moment, you can start to pay this off.
That's exactly right. It's got to be intense, though. You got to have that focused intensity. Now, Dave Ramsey talks about the debt snowball. And so with the debt snowball is paying your smallest debt first, right? So if you've got 7 credit cards and one of them's $10,000 and then one of them's $1,500, well, you want to pay the $1,500 credit card first, okay? And then you take the $1,500, or let's say your payment was $300 a month that you were paying towards that to get it paid off. Then you add that to the next one. So if you've got one that's $3,000, you start paying that towards that next credit card, and that helps you to snowball. So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then that gains momentum until all of a sudden you're paying off that $10,000 credit card and you're using all the money for your other 6 cards. And so that basically builds a giant payment that you're able to throw towards it, and it helps you to pay it off faster. Now, that might not be mathematically what is the smartest, okay? You can argue it. I don't really care which way you do it, but there's also another one called a debt avalanche. And with the debt avalanche, you take your highest interest rate. Okay, so let's say that $10,000 was your highest interest rate. Well, all you're going to pay on the other credit cards is the bare minimum, and you're going to throw everything you got at that higher one because it's the highest interest rate. And that's where you're going to get the biggest return on your money. So instead of, paying $500 a month for a 25% interest rate card, you're going to pay that one off first, and then that's your avalanche. So then you're going to take that money and start paying it towards the next highest interest rate. Okay, either way, I could care less, but the reason why Ramsey says do the smallest one first is because it gives you a sense of accomplishment, right? So you feel like you did something, which you did, and you're going to just build on that. So it's more about the psychological than the math. But either way you do it, it doesn't matter. Do whatever you think would be most rewarding to you.
Hi, my name is Maria. I'm 27 years old, and I don't know who needs to hear this, but today I just paid off my credit card debt. After 2.5 years, maybe a little bit more actually, I finally paid my credit card debt in full. After monthly just paying off interest and barely scraping by, because it is a very deep hole that you can dig yourself into very fast and not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we don't normalize it enough, we don't talk about it enough, that yes, a lot of people have credit card debt, and it takes us a very long time to get ourselves out of that. And I can tell you that it is an immense weight taken off my shoulders, and I feel incredibly blessed. And it's been a lot of dark days, but I'm finally over that.
Yeah, things just feel different when you're not buying them with debt. It's just the truth. Dave Ramsey says that. I believe it because I've experienced it. But I wanted to end on that one just because it's a positive note. She just paid off her credit card debt, and it wasn't easy. There were a lot of dark days, and it can feel impossible. Okay, so if you're sitting there thinking about, if you're one of those like at the beginning who have a $60,000 debt, well, guess what? There are plenty of people out there who've paid that off. You just have to have that focused intensity. You have to be willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. You have to be willing to cut out that extravagant lifestyle that got you there in the first place so that you can live it later with cash, okay? And it feels so much better to be able to take that vacation knowing that you don't have to come back and pay off that credit card bill over the next 10 years because you went nuts and you got something that you couldn't afford. So, guys, we're here to make gains together. I appreciate you staying this long to finish the video. Please like and subscribe. You don't know how much that helps our channel. Also, please tell me down below what you'd like to hear more of or less of. And tell me about your credit card experiences. What I can do is feature one of you in one of our next videos, and I'd love to hear your story. So anyway, thank you for coming along for the ride, and have a great rest of your day.